So that's why getting your message right is so important. So working with somebody like you to really kind of craft the narrative, get the message right, have it properly represented in your brochure, your LinkedIn profile, your resume, to make sure you are on message, to make sure.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is today's medical sales leader, and I'm your host, Claire Davis. And today I have Bob Goodwin here with me. And this is our second start because I just got choked up on the last recording. So he is an incredible leader in his space. And today I'm so excited to present him to you because whether you are in medical sales or not, we are all coming around to the realization that there's a fair amount of personal branding and professional branding that goes into how we present ourselves online and also connect with our clients. And it's about time that we start using those sales skills that we have refined in our career to promote our own professional brand and get that job we want. So today, Bob is here to share some of his methods. I hope he can talk all about his career club and how he has really ignited brands from P&G to Coke and Samsung to give us a little bit of insight on that. So Bob, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so grateful. And if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Claire, first of all, it's a super pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for having me. So my background is sales, so I'll empathize a lot with folks who might be listening to this or watching this. 25 plus years as a salesperson, sales leader. Most of my experience has been with consumer packaged goods companies or retail. So as you mentioned, clients have been Procter & Gamble and Coke and Samsung, Walmart, big names like that. And so in the meantime, I've been helping people network for a long time because I like to connect. That's sort of in my DNA, is just to help and to connect people. I like doing that. And along the way, a lot of the people that I was meeting and networking were people who are in job search. And what I noticed was, like, I would ask people, like, well, what are you looking for? Like, what do you think, your superpowers? What are you really, really good at? And people would stumble on that. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, like, you don't know what your brand is. You need to know what your value proposition is and what kind of problems you solve if you're going to be effective in communicating with people. Mm-hmm. And then and we'll talk more about this, but then on the sales part of it is people didn't have enough opportunities that they were pursuing. And like a salesperson would not think that they could hit their quota with one prospect, and just hoping and praying that one prospect closed on time. Yeah. But that's what people do in the job search. So long story short, it was just very clear to me that so many of the sales and marketing principles that I had learned in my day job highly applied to a job search. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really hear people connecting those dots the way that it seemed pretty plain. So started Career Club. We can talk a little bit more about that. But basically the idea is using proven sales and marketing methods and tools to help people find a career that matters to them.
Oh, I really like that you made that connection because I think you're right. When it comes to first identifying that we even have a personal brand, that can come to a shock, to many. And what I say often to my clients is even if you don't, necessarily put yourself out there and brand yourself, how people experience you wherever it is that personal brand. How they know you, what they know of you, and what comes to mind when they think about working with you. Yes. There it is. That is the personal brand. So to dive into that just a little bit more, where do you feel like people can start or should start when they're trying to develop or kind of identify what their personal brand is already?
Yeah. So when we're working with clients, the very first place that we start is, and I'm speaking right now, particularly about people that have either lost their job and they're in transition, or they're in a bad current situation. First base is always their attitude. So, like, what's their mindset? How are they feeling? Because if I lost my job, say that the company had a reduction in force or whatever happened, and I feel like I was treated unfairly, a lot of times people will carry that into their conversations as they're networking or doing whatever, and they're shaping their brand in the minds of people. And it's like, wow, he's really angry. Wow, he's really bitter. That's part of your brand now. And so people need to get to a good place emotionally or psychologically. Sometimes what I say is at least get to neutral. But so first base for me is your attitude. The second bit is around messaging and the value proposition that you bring forward to a company. And again, a lot of times people don't think of it in those terms. They know their job description, and people, Claire, I know that you're really good at helping people, identify their accomplishments and how they contribute and what they've done that's measurable, demonstrable, not just adjectives. I've got a little saying where I say, adjectives are not accomplishments. Saying that you're self-starter and you're curious and high integrity, those are all interesting things. Prove it. And so that's what a brand needs to be able to do. So a brand needs to know what the problems are that the client is having. So what are the pain points, in this case, the employer or the hiring manager, even more specifically, what are their pain points? And then how do I uniquely solve those kinds of problems? And then what are the reasons to believe that those are true? And those are my accomplishments. Here's my track record of solving problems just like that for somebody else. Those are a lot of the key elements of a brand. Then the other major point of this is who's the audience for that value proposition? So if I was like running advertising, I need to know who my target audience is. I'm not going to run a Geritol commercial, on Big Brother. That would be like a big misalignment. So knowing who the target audience is and how to reach them with the right message at the right time, those are all the kinds of things that marketers think about all day. But as job seekers, often we miss that. And we suffer the consequences of a job search taking way too long or taking a job that may not be the ideal fit for me.
Yeah. And, like you said, I think that getting to neutral is so important. And, it's interesting how, the more and more I speak with other coaches, it all starts with mindset. Is it harder to develop that understanding and focus on the pain points of the employer because most don't realize or recognize that as their true customer during a job search? Or do you find that the emotions and the instability and the frustration of being unemployed is what's holding us back from...
And my visceral response to that would be yes and. It's both.
Yeah.
In that it seems like, kind of legacy resume writing, legacy, personal brand narrative has been about me. I, me, and it's all about me. And so I'm very focused on me. And, everything and not thinking about the other side of the table. I think about this a lot with people who want to make a pivot. And they're like, well, I've been doing medical sales for a really long time. I'm tired of it. And I want to go do something new. I'm like, well, that's cool that that's what you want to do. But think about it from the other side. That who wants to take that risk? Unless somebody knows you really well. And they're willing to, well, I know Claire's never done this before, but I know she's smart. She works her tail off and she's very positive. I know she'll figure it out. Most people will not take that bet.
Right.
So you need to be very cognizant of where the other person is coming from in the equation. On the emotional part, honestly, I think that most people don't know that a lot of times they're stuck in the muck with that. And we've even gone so far now as we're partnering with some life coaches and even clinical psychologists. Before you even talk to the resume person, LinkedIn profile, stop. We need to there's some foundational work that needs to get done around values, convictions, aspirations. And most people don't pause long enough to think about those things because they're so big. I need to network. I need to get another job. And they don't take the time. And I believe they do that at their own peril because if they could have slowed down a little bit to hurry up, they're going to be a lot happier. They're going to be a lot more effective in an interview. And they're going to be more effective at their job ultimately, I believe.
Yes, I agree. I think that it must also be that, anything we do, whether, you're sitting here listening and watching us now and saying, well, I'm in medical sales or I'm in marketing or I'm an accountant. We wrap so much of our pride up in our job. So much of who we are becomes what we do, like it or not. And so I think that's such a brilliant approach to get your head right to make the next move. We almost can't do it until we start recognizing that there are other opportunities for us. Can you tell us a little bit more about the other resources that we would find in the Career Club, for example? Like what else should people be, doing kind of at the baseline before they even begin the job search? Yeah.
So, again, a lot of people, and particularly salespeople, I know because I are one, is we have a bias for action.
Yes.
Just go. And, activity feels good to us. But without proper planning, we can burn up a lot of networking by trying to be busy when it may not be as well aimed as it could have been. So there's an asset that we built at Career Club that I felt was missing for a lot of people. First, it comes in two pillars. The first pillar is getting you organized. A lot of people run their job search off of sticky notes and a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Or you're cobbling stuff down on the back of their Capital One bill or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, who introduced us? Which resume did I send that lady? Like, oh my God, I forgot to follow up with her. And it's all this stress of not being organized. And getting back to our core theme here, this is a big sales and marketing campaign that we're on. That's what CRM tools are really good at.
Yeah.
Right? Managing prospects, contacts, communication, a pipeline of opportunities. So the first thing we did is we took an existing CRM platform and repurposed it to align with the things that we do in a job search. The second piece that I felt was really missing was people don't know all the cool companies that are out there. They know the ones they know.
Right.
So, I'm going to start a sentence I can't finish, but like if I was in GI medical sales, I don't know who the major players are, but say there's 5 major players or something in that. Yeah. Well, those are the ones that I kind of know. So I guess if I'm not at one, I'll go find one of the other 4. Or for people that maybe aren't quite that niche in their thing, they might go find the book of lists for Spokane, Washington, and, that's my list. And so I'm going to go find, the biggest companies in Spokane, the best companies to work for at Spokane, the largest private companies. Everybody's got the same list if that's what you're doing. And now you're just falling in line with everybody else. There's a database that we use called Crunchbase.
Okay.
2 million companies. It's global. Every private company, every public company is in it. But its secret sauce is companies are getting funding. So we believe that, having a much broader aperture of visibility into companies that could be in my strike zone, but they have funny names. I've never heard of them.
Right.
But they've got money. They're scaling out.
Yeah.
They're also scaling up in a lot of cases. So they're top grading, as a friend of mine said the other day. They're taking their talent level up. But if it's a company I've never heard of, well, I can't call on them. So basically, we integrated Crunchbase into the CRM tool, so now I can do company discovery and outreach and manage all of my opportunities within one tool. And that seems to be a very differentiated thing. But what we also found was for non-salespeople, they need more help. And so we've ended up wrapping professional services around that with resume writers, LinkedIn optimization, helping do outbound campaigns on behalf of the client. And so really doing more of a what we call concierge club, which is kind of a do it for me, do it with me kind of an approach. And then the last bit, and I'll stop, is creating community, which I know is important to you as well.
Yes. Oh, what a brilliant approach. And I think something everybody here listening can really tap into because, that's just how you would run a traditional sales, business plan, right? So,
Exactly.
So when you were creating this, were your days at like Samsung and Coke, like, were they coming back to you and you were thinking like, oh, well, this is how I would have done business development here. This is how I see it happening in careers.
So the connection was, and just to be clear with your audience, my clients were Procter and Coke and Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm dealing with like the global head of marketing or the brand manager for Coke or the guy or gal that leads their relationship at Walmart. So it's that kind of executive and how they think about advancing their brands.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just learn all these principles just by osmosis, or if you're going to be at all effective in helping them solve their problem, you need to understand the world the way they think about it. So that's where all the marketing stuff came from. But then the sales bit is what I've been doing my whole career. And for people who are listening, particularly those who are salespeople, and if you're trying to identify your opportunity by applying for stuff online, and Claire, I'm sure you've got a strong opinion on this too.
I do.
I liken them to RFPs, a request for proposal, right? I hate RFPs. It's a black box. I've got no control over the process. Procurement is actually running the show, and I'm just falling in line with everybody else. That sounds a lot like online job postings to me. And I have no idea what the process is. I have no idea where this thing is going. I don't know who the decision maker is. But I've done it 400 times, and hopefully one of them. If you went to your sales manager and said, I'm going to make my quota by just doing RFPs, but Bob, here's your territory. Yeah, but they haven't issued an RFP. Well, aren't you calling on somebody there? No, because they haven't issued an RFP yet. Like, you're laughing because, and any salesperson would laugh because that's ridiculous.
Right.
So what we're doing is being much more proactive and helping the client curate a territory, if you will, of 60 companies, and then figuring out who's the decision maker or decision makers and being, proactive in building relationships with them, doing the outreach. Because, again, I think everybody knows this from experience, but sometimes we don't think about it in this context, is many, many people have gotten a job that was never posted.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, Claire's awesome. Like, I met her and started learning more about her background. Like, we need somebody like Claire right now. Or we've got somebody like Bob, and all of a sudden Claire shows up. And it's like, well, we have an opportunity to do a serious upgrade here. There never was a job posting, ever. The HR person never knew. That's what I was thinking about. Like, maybe I need to replace Bob because he's kind of a B-, C+ player. And all of a sudden Claire's an A+ player shows up. But that's how it works in the real world. But if we're not acting like salespeople, and in there, I even call our online job search course "Making Your Own Weather," because that's what salespeople do. They make their own weather. They make stuff happen. That's what I love about salespeople is we make stuff happen.
Yep.
And yet in the job search, we become much more passive, much more reactive. And if we just acted like the sales process as it is, then we would get a better job, faster, and dial our stress way down.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be nice? And, for the record, let's be honest, that company's going to keep Bob, okay? But no, I really think you're right. And, one thing I know that you talk about frequently is, if we're going about the job search the old way, right, the applying online, the banging your head up against the wall, go it alone, it's painful, and it can also be a little bit lonely. So can you talk a little bit about, what you see with your job seekers, maybe when they're transitioning into this new modern way of approaching their career? Because it can be a lonely place, especially to be unemployed, be it a layoff, a company closure, or otherwise.
No, spot on. And, my identity is very much tied up into my job. A lot of my social stuff is tied up into my colleagues. Like, these are my friends. And then you layer COVID on top of that. I mean, that got to be extremely isolating for people. And so, that's why we called it Career Club, is we wanted to create an environment where people felt like they were part of something again, and that they could attach to a larger social group that, wasn't just, a coffee clatch or a pity party, but where we're all kind of, trying to help each other. We're on the same page. We do a weekly roundtable, and we talk about successes, but we also talk about struggles. And, we haven't said this yet, but that's very near my why in all of this, is hearing people come into that call bummed out and walk out of that call energized, optimistic again. Somebody saying, well, here, Chris, call me after the call, and let's get connected, because I've got 3 people I can help you with. So we're building this community where even after you've landed, you're still part of the community, because, and I know you've seen this, Claire, is where once people have been through the process, they almost always adopt a pay it forward mentality. And you were so helpful to me when I was going through that process. I want to be there for somebody else, just like you were there for me. And so, not making it the job search club, but the career club, so that, again, we continue to nurture relationships. For a lot of people, and this is cold water for people, is if I've been at J&J for 18 years and all of a sudden something bad happens and I lose my job at J&J, well, I just lost my entire network. Right? And then people don't know what to do. And I liken it to going to an ATM and you're trying to make a withdrawal and you haven't made any deposits. And, that's a overdrawn relationship, and you can't make withdrawals till you've made deposits. And relationships tend to be very much the same way. And so once people, and again, sometimes it takes a job loss and people having to figure networking out and building relationships, that they want to continue to do that because now they get it. It didn't feel very good getting the lesson, but now when they got it, they get it. And so, community is just really, really important. And again, I would just want to emphasize this so much for people listening. It is not just for the job search. It's for the rest of your career.
Oh, amen. It's like you said, it's not just for the job search. It's for the rest of your career. But truthfully, a lot of us don't recognize the importance of networking, and sometimes don't recognize that we have been networking, but unintentionally, not with the intention that might serve us later on, until something happens like a layoff. I remember in my own case, the first time I was laid off, I completely neglected to network with my colleagues, my current clients at the time, and I was an associate at the time, but still, those relationships you make are so, so important. And it's sometimes not until we kind of hit the rock, we hit the wall, that we realize that we've got to keep going. So, so when it comes to networking, do you have a system that you encourage people to use, or maybe a routine? How does somebody, say they've been laid off and they need to supercharge their network again? How do they go about it systematically so they don't, burn out, forget, not do it, etc.?
So in full transparency, as much as, I'm an advocate for networking and try to do a lot of networking because I enjoy it. This has been a little bit more of a recent introduction, even in our own process, which is, and this is something anybody can do right now, is go to your LinkedIn profile and download your LinkedIn contacts. And whether you've got 500 or 5,000, you own your data, you own your contacts. And so LinkedIn will give that to you. It'll come to you in an Excel or CSV file. And then I encourage people to pick your top 100 to 200. Well, what constitutes top? Well, some of the people I'm super close to, and I could text right now, and they're going to text me back. Some could be top, these are some of those senior people that I've met over the course of my career so far. I would encourage people to think about salespeople. We are natural networkers, and we have naturally larger networks than maybe somebody that worked in finance, as an example. Not picking on my finance friends, but salespeople.
They're not listening to this podcast. Don't worry.
Good, yeah. So that's a different podcast.
Yeah, right. Next week.
But salespeople tend to be natural networkers and helpers. And then, another pod that you might have in picking your top would be people that are at companies that you'd like to be at. And there's various criteria that you could use, but thinking about those kinds of things, picking your top 200, we're basically, and you can do this on your own, you don't need us to do this, but we find that people benefit, like Weight Watchers, like you can go eat better on your own, people just don't. But if you can do this all yourself, but taking if you said 200, taking 50 this week, having a templated email that says basically, hey, Claire, hope you're well. Recently, I left my role at XYZ and, have been, operating my, engaging my network to let folks know that I'm back in the market. It's been a while since we spoke, but would love to reconnect with you. I love Calendly. Here's a link to my calendar to find a time that's convenient. Really looking forward to connecting. Have a great day, Claire.
Yeah.
It's super short. I didn't tell them my career story. I didn't attach my resume. I was transparent that I've lost my job. It's very cool. If you look on LinkedIn, I think these are some of the most popular posts right now where people are saying, hey, I lost my job. I got laid off. And there's no shame in that. So that'd be one thing I'd really encourage people. There's zero shame in that happening to you. But anyway, doing that and then doing pods of 50 over the course of 4 weeks, jumpstart your networking. But I'll say this is really key. We talked about attitude, then we talked about messaging. Now we're ready for outreach. I talk about sometimes airing bad commercials. If we bought a Super Bowl spot, but we had a really crappy commercial, that's a bad idea. We might have gotten in front of a bunch of people,
right?
But we did it in the wrong way. And so it's I remember that Bob commercial. That was terrible, right? So that's why getting your message right is so important. So working with somebody like you to really kind of craft the narrative, get the message right, have it properly represented in your brochure, your LinkedIn profile, your resume, to make sure you are on message, to make sure that you can tell me about yourself fluidly, easily, right? And not, let me go get, I am you don't want that, right? And so that's very key in networking. The first LinkedIn article I ever wrote, Claire, was called The Most Powerful Question You Can Ask. And it was based on a networking meeting that I had at a Starbucks with somebody who had lost their job. I didn't know them from anybody. And the guy was so full of shame that the body language was just profoundly sad. And he was literally backing away from me. Even as we're meeting, and he just kept apologizing for taking up my time. I know you're really busy. I'm so sorry. Stop. I want to be here. I want to help you. But he felt like the power dynamic, if I can say it this way, was so out of balance that I had all the power. He had nothing to offer. And it was basically like alms for the poor. And I'm like, no. Please stop. You've got relationships, experience, all kinds of, accomplishments, things you know about that I don't know anything about. So people, the most powerful question you can ask, to cut to the chase, is how I can help you. Is there anything, Claire, that I can do that would be of help to you? Yeah. And to be genuine in that. Not that it's a rote question that I'm supposed to ask this real quick. Anything I can do to help you, Claire? Yeah. But as we talk, and we talk about our kids, and we talk about what you're interested in, I might find that you've got, a daughter with a learning disability or whatever it might be. Oh, do you know this tutor? We've actually had the same thing. Our neighbor knows this amazing person. You can contribute. You have something to offer. I think it truly helps the emotional well-being of the job seeker to know that they've got things to offer in this conversation. But two is it is a highly differentiated networking behavior, that it's not all gimme,
Yes.
and that I'm just going in here and I'm being manipulative and I feel like I'm using this person. No, you're not. You're going in there seeking to help them too. And hopefully we both walk out in a mutually beneficial relationship. That makes networking fun. Hey, I might be able to go help this lady today. That's cool. Maybe she can help me. Let's find out.
Yeah.
And so I think, that one, jumpstarting your networking by downloading your LinkedIn stuff. Two is having a message that you know who you are and what you're looking for, and that you can clearly and concisely relate that to somebody. And then three is that attitude of seeking to help and to give, not just seeking to get. If you can do those things well and do them consistently, do your follow-ups that you committed to, networking is fun.
Yeah.
You've seen this. People come back and say, you know what, I would not have wished losing my job. It sucked. Like that's not something I would have chosen. I met so many amazing people in this process. I'm just blown away by all the great people that I met.
Yeah.
And now I'm committed to helping the next person.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my advice in a nutshell, or not a nutshell, on networking.
That's great advice. And, what I find is that when people do become empowered to start reaching out to network, even if they haven't for a long time, and I hear it a lot from my senior leaders who will say something to the effect of, I wish I would have started this 20 years ago. And listen, everybody starts when this becomes top of mind. It's okay, right? But what I find is that when they do start reaching out, much like you say, especially if you approach the conversation with a giving attitude, not just a taking attitude, that people are very, very willing to help. They want to. People are so willing to give an extra ear or to share their experience because it builds their authority too. It makes them feel good because they worked hard in their career, and to be able to pay it forward more often than not, people are very willing to do it. So I hope that, if you're listening to this and you haven't yet engaged your network, or you're not going after your job search as a plan, as a call plan and a funnel, and leveraging those things that you, as a salesperson, and in this podcast for this scenario, medical salesperson, start considering that you have so many more tools in your arsenal from your sales experience, and that you can leverage them to your own ends to make yourself a really great career path. But I love what you shared today, Bob. Thank you so much for enlightening us on all these things. I think that it's the future of how people should be job searching, especially when so much has changed over the last 2 years. I think that I've yet to work with a client who has said that they've gotten no jobs at all from somebody they know. I've literally never had that conversation. They've said at least one of their jobs, it's been through someone they knew. So, but I think the way that you're approaching this through Career Club is really, really smart. So can you share a little bit about where people can find you, should they want to tap into these resources and connect with you?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. So amazingly, career.club, that is the domain. So you can go there, and then that'll say all this good stuff. Two is I'm very active on LinkedIn. So, would love it if people wanted to follow me, follow Career Club. We do lots of podcasts too, so that's fun and a lot of good content. But and then lastly, just as an offer to anybody who's listening to this podcast, Claire, if they referenced it, I said earlier, Making Your Own Weather is the name of the online course. I would make that available as a gift to anybody who's listening to this if they would like.
Wow.
Normally it's only available to our paying clients, but you're very sweet to have me on, and I think the message would really resonate with salespeople. So so career.club. You follow me, Bob Goodwin, or connect with me on LinkedIn, follow Career Club, and would love to help in any way.
Oh, thank you so much. And so that's so generous of you, Bob. So if they send you a note and reference this podcast, that they will be able to access that wonderful training. Thank you so much. That's really, truly generous.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. I know that we could talk to Bob Goodwin for hours, and I know that there's so much more. Do take the time to follow him, connect with him over on LinkedIn, and learn more about Career Club, especially if you're at a point in your career where you are ready to take it to the next level. And until next time, thank you so much for joining us. See you later.